Raymond's refusal to board any plane except Qantas caused 15 airlines to remove the airport scene from in-flight screenings. The film was built on 3 departed directors and a character breakthrough in rural Oklahoma. These are 20 hidden details you completely missed in Rain Man. Number 20. The young boy Raymond notices at the diner counter during the toothpick scene appears to be a background extra. He is not. That child is Jake Hoffman, Dustin Hoffman's actual son, placed in the scene by his father during filming at Pompilio's restaurant in Newport, Kentucky. Director Barry Levinson never announced the decision publicly. It sits in the finished film without credit or comment. Look at the boy behind the counter during the toothpick sequence. He is right there in plain view, and almost no one who watches the film knows who they are actually seeing. Every time Raymond notices that boy, a real father is watching his real child reflected back on screen. And the woman who drops that toothpick box carries an equally quiet secret. Number 19. The waitress who drops the toothpick box at Pompilio's restaurant appears to be a seasoned character actor placed in a supporting moment. She had never appeared in a credited film before this scene. Bonnie Hunt was working as an oncology nurse when she auditioned during a lunch break and was cast as Sally Dibbs in her first credited film role. Look at her name tag during the toothpick sequence. The naturalism of the drop reads as thoroughly rehearsed, but Hunt had no professional film experience. Levinson's instinct to cast a first-time actor in that pivotal moment produced one of the film's most genuinely spontaneous performances. The opening sequence hides a stranger geographical secret inside its very first establishing image on screen. Number 18. The opening sequence combines a downtown Los Angeles skyline with cargo activity at the Port of Los Angeles in what reads as one seamless view. That combination is physically impossible. The Vincent Thomas Bridge and the LA City Hall skyline cannot be seen together from any real vantage because downtown Los Angeles sits roughly 25 miles from the San Pedro harbor where the Lamborghini unloading was filmed. Look at the background buildings during the cargo sequence and notice the skyline positioned behind the harbor cranes. The skyline and the harbor simply cannot coexist in that frame. According to production documentation, the very first image in Rain Man is a constructed geography. The car Raymond's brother prizes so completely is hiding its own personal production history. Number 17. The name Raymond recites during the phone book operator call sounds like generic fictional detail. It is not fictional. Marcia and William Gottsiegen are the real names of Dustin Hoffman's actual in-laws, deliberately placed in the script as a private reference. Screenwriter Ronald Bass incorporated the names at Hoffman's suggestion. Pause on the phone book page during the operator scene. The entry is fully readable on screen, and Raymond's most public demonstration of savant memory is secretly anchored to a real family connection. Every viewer who hears Raymond recite those names is unknowingly listening to Hoffman's own relatives referenced in the dialogue. The road trip vehicle those relatives never appear in carries a deeply personal production secret most audiences have never noticed. Number 16. The 1949 Buick Roadmaster convertible that carries the brothers across the country looks like a carefully sourced period prop. Director Barry Levinson called it the film's third lead. 2 matching Sequoia Cream Roadmasters were used during production. One had its rear suspension modified and a camera operator hidden in the trunk to capture driving footage. The other served as the untouched hero vehicle. After production ended, Dustin Hoffman purchased the untouched version and kept it for 34 years before selling it at auction in January 2020 for $335,000. Look at the wide desert shots and notice the car from multiple angles. Depending on the scene, you may be watching the vehicle with a camera operator hidden in the trunk. The Cincinnati radio jingle Raymond repeats has a specific and verifiable real-world origin. Number 15. The line Raymond locks onto from the car radio, the 97X Cincinnati station identification, sounds like period atmosphere created for the film. That call was real. The line was recorded by actual WOXY Cincinnati station manager Steve Baker. Once the station learned the phrase would appear in Rain Man, they adopted it as their official on-air identity. Listen for the jingle during the early Buick driving scenes along Cincinnati's Columbia Parkway. According to Robin James's book The Future of Rock and Roll, the station made the decision immediately after the film's release. A real broadcast identity became permanent because a fictional character with a photographic memory could not stop repeating it. The building representing Wallbrook holds an equally unexpected real-world identity beneath its exterior. Number 14. The imposing exterior representing Wallbrook reads as a purpose-built institutional facility designed for control. It is a Kentucky convent. The building is St. Anne's Convent at 1000 St. Anne Drive Drive in Melbourne, Kentucky, chosen by location scout Lori Holliday, who remembered it from childhood. The production selected it because the architecture photographed is serious and contained without modification. Look at the entrance gate and stone walkwork in any Wallbrook exterior shot. The religious architectural detail is visible throughout if you know where to look. Every scene using that facade as a symbol of restriction was filmed at a place of quiet community life. Producer Mark Johnson confirmed the site decision in production materials. The character behind those walls nearly had an entirely different performance underneath from the one audiences saw. Number 13. Dustin Hoffman's Raymond has a precisely present, withdrawn quality that feels built into the character from the film's opening frame. That quality nearly did not survive week 3 of production. After viewing early footage, Hoffman reportedly described the material as some of the worst work he had ever done and named actor Richard Dreyfuss as a possible replacement. Then, on a highway near Cogar, Oklahoma, in 100-degree heat, Hoffman improvised a monologue about Raymond's missing Hanes underwear and suddenly found the character. Watch the phone booth scene filmed near that same Cogar gas station. According to production accounts published by the Associated Press in 1988, the shift in Hoffman's certainty traces to that exact location and that single improvised exchange. Number 12. The elderly man in the Guthrie, Oklahoma doctor's waiting room who speaks about local history appears to be a supporting actor reading scripted lines. He is neither. Byron P. Kunar was an 89-year-old local resident with no acting experience who began speaking about the Pony Express unprompted when the crew was setting up nearby. Director Barry Levinson kept cameras rolling and incorporated the exchange without alteration. Nothing Kunar says was written. Look at the waiting room sequence and notice how the conversation never follows the rhythm of scripted dialogue. Cinematographer John Seal held frame on a real man saying real things. One of the film's most authentic moments was a complete accident. The Kmart address exchange hides a private in-joke no audience member was meant to decode. Number 11. The Kmart address exchange, where Raymond insists the correct number is 400 Oak, plays as a demonstration of geographic memory. The number 400 Oak in Cincinnati is the actual street address of the Vernon Manor Hotel, where the cast and crew stayed during the Cincinnati production weeks. Screenwriter Ronald Bass embedded the detail as a private reference never intended for general audiences. Producer Mark Johnson and the MGM production team were aware of the in-joke. Pay attention during any address correction scene. The number Raymond insists on is the hotel where Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise slept at night while filming scenes of navigational precision during the day. The Caesars Palace blackjack sequence looks accurate on screen, but contains verifiable errors a professional card counter documented publicly. Number 10. The Caesars Palace blackjack sequence looks like a procedurally accurate demonstration of Raymond's savant card counting ability. Professional card counter Mike Aponte, a former member of the MIT blackjack team, publicly documented its inaccuracies after the film's release. Raymond hits on a hard 18, which no counting system recommends. The dealer produces 3 queens consecutively from a 6-deck shoe, a statistically implausible sequence. The dealer also fails to color up the brothers' chips, which is standard casino procedure. Look at the card hands during the first significant bet adjustment in the Las Vegas sequence. The scene was built for dramatic momentum rather than procedural accuracy. Levinson made the decision to prioritize rhythm over casino realism. According to Aponte's published critique, nearly every deal shown contains a recognizable error. Number 9. Raymond's refusal to board any airline except Qantas, based on crash statistics, plays as a memorable character beat. That single scene caused a real industry response lasting years. In June 1989, 15 major airlines including American, Delta, and Continental removed the airport scene from in-flight versions of the film. Director Barry Levinson, screenwriter Ronald Bass, and the Writers Guild of America publicly criticized the decision. Qantas reportedly ran the scene intact and, according to separate accounts, upgraded one of the film's writers to first class. Look at the departures board during the airport refusal sequence and notice each airline Raymond names. Every carrier he cites later cut this exact exchange from screens at altitude. The film that produced that moment almost had an entirely different director. Number 8. Rain Man feels like it could only have been made by these specific collaborators. 3 major directors departed before Barry Levinson accepted the assignment. With 2 weeks before cameras rolled, director Martin Brest left over creative disagreements. Director Steven Spielberg worked with the production for 5 months before leaving to honor a commitment to George Lucas for Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. Director Sidney Pollack declined because he did not want to make a road movie. According to Rolling Stone's published interview with Levinson, at least 4 to 6 writers worked on the screenplay before Ronald Bass and Barry Morrow received final credit. The minimalist road trip in the finished film is the 4th director's deconstruction of a script that once contained motorcycle gangs and FBI agents. Number 7. Dustin Hoffman's Raymond feels fully inhabited from the film's very first scene. The truth is the opposite. After viewing footage from his opening days on set, Hoffman reportedly described the early material as some of the worst work he had ever done and named actor Richard Dreyfuss as someone who might step in. 3 weeks into production, an improvised monologue about Hanes underwear on a 100-degree Oklahoma highway unlocked the entire character. Watch the phone booth scene filmed at the Kogar gas station and notice the quality of Hoffman's precision in that frame. The certainty across every Raymond scene from that point forward was absent in the early Cincinnati footage. What appears to be a unified performance was rebuilt midway through the shoot on a rural Oklahoma roadside. Number 6. The cramped phone booth scene where Charlie reacts with visible discomfort to something Raymond does reads as well-rehearsed physical comedy. Hoffman's flatulence during that take was genuine. Tom Cruise's reaction was entirely unscripted and unrehearsed. Hoffman described it in multiple interviews as his favorite scene in the finished film. Look at both actors' faces during the phone booth sequence. Cruise's response is not a performance choice prepared in advance. That is a real reaction to something unplanned. Director Barry Levinson kept the take because the dynamic it produced was more honest than anything written for that moment. The intimate emotional gesture that closes the psychiatric evaluation scene was created the same way, with no preparation and no direction given to either actor before Levinson called action. Number 5. Raymond's speech rhythms, behavioral tics, and physical mannerisms have felt specific and precise to audiences for nearly 4 decades. Almost all of that specificity came from a private home video. Princeton football player Kevin Guthrie recorded his autistic brother Peter's daily life and sent the tape to Dustin Hoffman. According to interviews Hoffman gave to The Guardian, he attributes roughly 90% of Raymond's behavioral detail to what he observed on that recording. Hoffman also met Kim Peek, the real-life inspiration for the character, in Salt Lake City in February 1987 and spent a year in research before filming. Look at Raymond's hand placement and vocal rhythm in any conversation scene. Those are not invented choices. They document one real man's daily behaviors captured on a private home tape. Number 4. Raymond's mannerisms trace to a private video, but the character has a more specific real-world origin. Screenwriter Barry Morrow met Lawrence Kim Peek at a conference in Arlington, Texas in 1984. Peek had memorized roughly 12,000 books, could read 2 pages simultaneously using one eye per page, and could recall ZIP codes and calendar dates with total accuracy. He could not button his own shirts. Morrow drew the entire premise from that first meeting. Script consultant Dr. Daryl Treffert, based in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, guided the portrayal throughout production and is credited in the finished film. Look at the psychiatric evaluation scene and consider that the character being tested was built from a real man who memorized entire libraries but needed daily help with basic personal tasks. Number 3. Barry Morrow won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay at the 61st Academy Awards in March 1989. He no longer owns the statuette. On Oscar night, when Kim Peek asked to hold the trophy, Morrow gave it to him, saying, "Kim, without you, there would not be an Oscar." For 2 decades, Peek and his father Fran carried that statuette to schools worldwide. Morrow estimates roughly 1 million people have held that Oscar since. The gold plating has worn through and the statuette is now slightly bent. According to the Utah Film Center, where the award is on permanent loan, this Oscar has been held by more people than any other in history. Cruise's path to the film began with his sister 4 years earlier. Number 2. Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman's pairing looks like a calculated studio decision. It started in a New York theater lobby in 1984. Cruise's sister Cass encouraged him to approach Hoffman after a performance of Death of a Salesman. Hoffman invited Cruise backstage and said he wanted to work together. A year later, Hoffman sent him the Rain Man script. In 2025, Cruise described the story at the British Film Institute, confirming that Cass's push that night was the direct origin of his casting. According to Variety's coverage, Cruise credited his sister by name. Watch Cruise in any early scene and understand that the performance was built from a conversation his sister made happen backstage at a Broadway play 4 years before Rain Man began filming. Number 1. The moment Raymond leans his head against Charlie's after the psychiatric evaluation is the most intimate emotional beat in Rain Man. It was not written. Dustin Hoffman improvised the gesture entirely in the moment. Tom Cruise did not know it was coming. Director Barry Levinson kept the take without alteration because nothing scripted had produced that level of honesty between the 2 actors. Watch Cruise's face in that specific frame. His reaction is unguarded because he had no preparation for what Hoffman offered in that take. And Kim Peek, the man who inspired Raymond's character, watched the film at its premiere while writer Barry Morrow grew anxious that Peek seemed disengaged. When the credits ended, Peek told Morrow 4 words, "I saw it with my heart." Rain Man looks like a road trip about 2 brothers learning to see each other. Beneath every familiar scene sits a real son hidden in plain view, a private in-joke buried in a phone book, and an Oscar given away the night it was won. Which hidden detail surprised you most? And what film should we open next?